Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass, live in the color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. And tonight, it's going to get gory in this motherfucker. It's going to get bloody in this sumbitch because tonight we take a road down memory lane into the old school gore splatter films of the legendary godfather of gore himself, Mr. Herschel Gordon Lewis. Yes, Herschel Gordon Lewis. I'm super excited to do this show. This is a show that I would say is a long time coming because I've been a big Herschel Gordon Lewis fan my entire life, but not until recently when Arrow did this whole 50% off sale did I decide to kind of dip on the Herschel Gordon Lewis box set that Arrow put out a few years ago. And now I know that there's a few different editions of this. There's the serial box edition of this, which is so OP, and like I'm pretty sure it goes for like hundreds upon hundreds of dollars now. There's no way you're getting your hands off that. Somebody on eBay will rip you off. But if you want the movies like I do, and this is still a damn pretty cool box set, you can get this son of a bitch right now until July the 18th for $50. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it at your local Barnes and Nobles. I highly recommend people get this. It's 14 movies, $50. In my opinion, you can't go wrong. And tonight we're going to be talking about 3 of the 14 movies in this set. Of course, first up, it's going to be Blood Feast, the oldest, but one of the most notorious video nasties. We'll also be talking about 2000 Maniacs, which is actually reversible cover art. So we'll switch it when we're talking about that one. And then, of course, from 1965, we'll be talking about Color Me Blood Red. This is, of course, the Blood Trilogy, the Herschel Gordon Lewis Blood Trilogy. And we'll get into some of the backstory, how this gore trilogy came to be. We'll get into the individual movies as a whole. We'll be discussing those. But I'm super excited to discuss all 3 of these. It's going to be awesome. Of course, this also comes with the Wizard of Gore cover art, and I believe the reversible is the Gore Girls. There's 14 movies on this set. It's a pretty cool little set, of course, of Herschel Gordon Lewis's movies here. And I can actually list off all the movies. Blood Feast, Scum of the Earth, 2000 Maniacs, Moonshine Mountain, which was a lot of fun. Moonshine Mountain was a ton of fun. Color Me Blood Red, Something Weird, which lives up to the title. The Gruesome Twosome, which I fucking loved, and I actually wish I was talking about that tonight. But that's the beauty with these. Like, I could do a Herschel Gordon Lewis episode volume 2. We could do more Herschel Gordon Lewis episodes. I obviously wanted to start with the infamous Blood Trilogy because it is what he's most known for. And it's 3 movies that I don't believe I've touched on the channel. Maybe Blood Feast. I believe I talked about Blood Feast on the 2nd ever episode of Grande's Graveyard. That's how long ago I talked about Blood Feast. So we'll get into it tonight. Of course, A Taste of Blood, She Devils on Wheels, which was Herschel Gordon Lewis's response to all of the people that said, oh, you just kill women in your films. Well, watch She Devils on Wheels. I just tell you that. Just for the Hell of It, which I haven't watched. How to Make a Doll, worst Herschel Gordon Lewis film. Wizard of Gore, I love. This Stuff Will Kill You, and the Gore Girls. It's 14 movies. Absolutely no regrets. You've got a bunch of multiple discs. You have 2 movies to a disc, most of these. I think it's like 7. I think it's 7 or 8 discs. I believe it's 7. But I don't know, man. I am a huge Herschel Gordon Lewis fan. And a lot of people, always argue and wonder and ask, did Herschel Gordon Lewis ever truly make a good film? Because a lot of his films are notorious for being low budget. And a lot of his films are notorious for being so bad they're good, whatever that term means to you. But in a lot of ways, I think Herschel Gordon Lewis just kind of went out there and made the movies that he wanted to make. And, who's to say that they have to have psychology or they have to have this deep meaning? I think the guy just went out there and just tried to make something that was marketable. And thankfully, he was able to do that. I mean, he'll be the first one to tell you that gore and blood sell. And that Blood Feast was a movie that really changed the game in the horror genre, no matter how goofy it may be. And no matter how notorious its reputation is for being so bad, it's good. 59 years after its anniversary, which was just a week ago, here I am on Grande's Graveyard still talking about Blood Feast. I mean, he did something right, and we'll get into it. But, I just think it's kind of an interesting topic, and I'm super excited to discuss the godfather of American gore, Mr. Herschel Gordon Lewis, tonight on Grande's Graveyard. But we're going to get to comments first. Of course, Miss Carter's in the house. Ciao, Grande, and hello, everyone. Ciao, Miss C. Welcome to the show. Should I start using blood for my drawings? Ayo, what's up, playa? Oh, dude, John Steele's in the house. Hey, man, I hope you be using a woman's head as a paintbrush, just like in Color Me Blood Red. That is pretty high key shit. I'm super excited to get into all of these because they're all very fun to discuss. Let's see. You're off to see the wizard, the horrible wizard of gore. Slasher Fred's in the house. What's up, good brother? It could be worse things, I guess. I agree. I think there's worse things out there than gore films. It's funny. Before he made all these gore films, Herschel Gordon Lewis was notorious for making pornography films, let's be honest. And once he realized that nude pictures were kind of fading out of the scene, he said, what can I sell for cheap? And he put together $24,000 and made a little movie called Blood Feast in 5 days, and realized upon millions that Blood Feast made at the local drive-ins that, holy shit, blood is marketable and we could do this. And let's say we do more of these, hence the Blood Trilogy, hence all of the gore splatter films that Herschel Gordon Lewis would go on to make over the next 9 years of his career. So it's pretty interesting. Ben Grimm is in the house. What's going on, good brother Ben? Hope all is well with you tonight. The Master of Fears here. What's going on, Kara? Hope all is well. Beaver Dreamland Theater's in the house. Hey. What's going on, buddy? What's going on? Didn't he direct the remake/sequel? He directed the sequel to Blood Feast. However, the remake of The Wizard of Gore was directed by somebody else. I believe was if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Crispin Glover in The Wizard of Gore remake? I believe that was the case. I'm not positive. But I love the original Wizard of Gore. I can't remember the remake too well. I don't think the sequel to Blood Feast is too bad. I actually think it's a solid enough movie. I kind of wish it was in the set. I think that movie would be fine to be in the set because that was Herschel Gordon Lewis's return after like a 40-something year hiatus. So that would have been cool to add in the box set. Or Ed Wood, he made a lot of bad movies that were very good, like Plan 9 from Outer Space. Exactly. Like, okay, is Ed Wood Stanley Kubrick? No. In no world, in no way can you ever compare those two. But who's to say that Ed Wood didn't make films that we're still going to talk about all these years later? And that's why I look at Herschel Gordon Lewis and I look at his films as very important and very influential. Like, if you look at 2000 Maniacs, when we get into that movie, that may be the first hillbilly exploitation horror film ever made, if you think about it. I mean, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre the most notorious? Of course. But 2000 Maniacs played and planted quite a few seeds when it comes to the whole hillbilly exploitation, hicksploitation, backwoods horror movie. And that's why I love 2000 Maniacs, probably my favorite of the trilogy. Big Johnny in the house, one of the first movies to transform the horror genre. Falcom Adam, dude, absolutely. We're going to get right into Blood Feast. I'm super excited. Yes, Crispin was the wizard. Okay, that's right. I have seen it, but it has been a long time, Brother Ben. So I'm definitely due for a rewatch. Ty Junebug, man, I haven't seen your name on here in like forever, man. Hope all is well with you. Junebug Studio Ltd. The only bad directors are the ones that don't have a passion for filmmaking, that just do it for the money, aka Uwe Balls. Well, Uwe Balls stinks. And, I'm not going to be one to say that Herschel Gordon Lewis didn't make his money off these movies, because he did. And then he made cheap films and, executed off that as well. But I don't mind a director saying, hey, I want to see what's going to sell. And he realized that blood sells and capitalized. I think it's a very smart thing that he did. HBO and Cinemax used to show adult TV series and movies. Yes, that's true. Ed Wood went the opposite route. First horror, then porn. Yeah, no, I mean, so it's funny. I say this all the time and people think I'm crazy. I think slasher film directors and porn directors aren't too far off. When you think about what brings good movies to both genre of porn and slasher, they're not too far. I mean, one has boobs, the other has boobs. One has mayhem, the other one has mayhem. Some action, you want to see some action. Slasher filmmakers should be making porn, and porn filmmakers should be making slasher films. Look at Gregory Dark. Look at See No Evil. That's a porn director. A guy came from the porn world and made a very good, fun slasher movie that delivered on the goods. And dare I say, is a really good flick. I wish he'd gotten to make more. Rolf Knipski, another really good horror filmmaker that started in porn. I mean, Wes Craven, in between The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, he made a little movie called The Fireworks Woman, which is a fucking pornography. I don't see anything wrong with it. To me, is if you want to make those kind of movies and they're marketable for you and you're trying to make a living, who's to say that you shouldn't? I just don't think the two are too far apart. And especially for Herschel Gordon Lewis, you watch these movies, the acting is about porn movie level quality of acting. Let's be honest. There's not a lot of good acting in Herschel Gordon Lewis films, but that's not the point at the same time. It's really more of a fun kind of atmosphere and aesthetic that these movies bring, and you can kind of get lost for a very short period of time in these weird worlds that we're, submitted to. Weird, I don't even see the Junebug comment. Oh, really? No, he's right here. Just been focusing on life, a lot of personal drama, and focusing on a lot of stuff. Hey, man, I hear that. I've had my fair share of personal drama in life and stuff. I hear you, man. I completely hear you, but I hope everything's okay. Yay, fireworks porno. Yeah, no, I mean, whatever floats your boat. But I guess we'll get right into the first movie of the Blood trilogy. Of course, it is the oldest video nasty of all time. This is from the year 1963. Just one short week ago, this celebrated its unprecedented 59th anniversary. This is Herschel Gordon Lewis's groundbreaking horror film and the first ever gore/splatter film. This is Blood Feast. Yes, Blood Feast from 1963. A very, very important and influential horror movie when you look at the entire landscape of the horror genre. And I'm going to get into a brief plot synopsis here. An Egyptian caterer kills various women in suburban Miami to use their body parts to revive a dormant Egyptian goddess, while an inept police detective tries to track him down. Yes, Blood Feast. Now, this is always considered by many to be one of those so bad it's good movies. And it really is. It is so bad it is quite enjoyable in what goes on in it. Like, it's goofy, it is cheesy. The kills are gory and over the top, but not in a horrific way. It's more of a laughable way. However, I don't mean that as a knock. To me, that's what makes this movie so memorable, is the fact that instead of shying away from the gore, this is the first ever film to really dwell on it and to sell itself based on the gore itself. And a film that used its marketing to really kind of sell tickets at drive-ins and stuff, and couples and people and everybody alike would go and see this movie Blood Feast. And, the producer, David F. Freeman, who worked with Herschel Gordon Lewis up until Color Me Blood Red, that was the last film they worked on together before an argument, and they didn't talk together for years. And they eventually got reconciled, but not to make a movie. He wanted to make this like a whole event. Let's give out vomit bags. If you watch Blood Feast, you'll need a vomit bag. Let's give out this, that, all these kind of, little gimmicks, like an old school directors would do that as well. Of course, William Castle was infamous for that. A lot of Vincent Price movies, like The Tingler, they would do all these gimmicks at the movie theater, and House on Haunted Hill, where the skeleton would fly through the screen, and oh my God, everybody in the theater would jump. Gimmicks to sell your film. And you're talking, that's 1959, House on Haunted Hill. Blood Feast is not too long after, 1963, when this movie hit theaters. And is it low budget? Absolutely. This movie was made for $24.5 in 5 days. This is a cheap film. There's bad acting in this. There are points where you could see the police sergeant reading his lines off the table and looking up they found her leg, and then, they found her heart. I swear to you, that's how bad the acting is in this movie. But it has an endearing part to it. It has a charm to it. It makes you smile because you realize that so little money went into this, but so much heart and passion and love for the genre also went into this. And it endears me to the film in a lot of ways, just for me. I don't know, that's just me, but I see we have a bunch of comments, so before I keep going, let's go back here. Love it or hate it, X is basically softcore porn mixed with horror. I haven't seen X, but yes, I've heard that. A lot of porno actresses are better actresses than a lot of actresses nowadays. Not going to mention names, but ... that's dramatic dots. Wynorski says that he hires adult actresses because regular actresses are scared to show skin now. Well, he's not wrong. I mean, how many mainstream actresses are going to show the goods? I mean, it's very few and far between. No, everything's all right. Just been thinking about the most important thing. A man should think about how he's going to be remembered in legacy as wife and focusing on. Do you think Blood Diner and Blood-Sucking Pharaohs as Pittsburgh took a note from this film? Absolutely they did, man. Absolutely they did. I actually think they should bring back those gimmicks to movies, like make it more of a... I agree with you. I think they should bring these gimmicks back too, but I think in a lot of ways, movies have really transcended from this. I don't think this movie would sell now. I really don't. I think at the time it sold because no one had ever seen it before. I mean, of course there was Psycho. Of course there was Peeping Tom. Of course there was Black Sunday, Blood and Black Lace, which was the year after this actually. But you had these great groundbreaking horror films, but at the same time, not all of those movies were explicit. I mean, Black Sunday is a lot of it's remembered for that opening scene where the mask gets crushed on Barbara Steele's face. We all remember that's brutal. But nothing else in that movie is quite gory or graphic or explicit like it is in Blood Feast. Blood Feast is exactly what you think it is. It is the gore goods. You know, there's a woman that gets her tongue ripped out, and that's an infamous scene. It's horror history as the blood kind of, you see it pouring out of her mouth, and, you know, the killer in this, he pulls out her tongue and he's kind of admiring it. That's horror history. That's one of the first graphic, gory, explicit kills that is ever shown on camera for us as a viewer. Sure, do the effects look dated? Absolutely. Is it kind of cheesy? Absolutely. But there's no undermining the importance of that gore, of that kill, of that explicitness that you know can be understated, in my opinion. Now, the killer in this is, of course, I want to get his name right here, Mal Arnold, who plays Fuad Ramses, and he is such a fun, over-the-top killer. He has these great crazy eyes where he's discussing this woman that wants to, oh, I want this whole party, and I was wondering if you could help me. I want something that hasn't been done before, and I will give you a blood feast like Ishtar or Sheetar, or not Sheetar is blood diner, of course. That's Sheetar. This is Etar or Ishtar, something like that. And, he's going, this hasn't been seen in 5,000 years. And they do these uncomfortable close-ups on his eyes, and he just absolutely does the great crazy eyes in this. Very fun performance from Mal Arnold. He just does a great job. I personally think that he helps make this movie because he's the best actor in this movie. Of course, you have Connie Mason as the lead, and of course, she's notorious for being a Playboy playmate, but couldn't act worth a damn. I mean, she is looking good in a bikini in this film. She also shows up in 2000 Maniacs, but a lot to be desired there. Will Kerwin plays one of the cops, and of course, they were married in real life. But I don't know. I think this movie, it's one of those, it's a very important film, and it really can't be understated. Now, there's some scenes I'd like to run through for sure, but a lot of them are goofy. I mean, there's a scene where a couple are on the beach, and they're making out, and, Ramses comes limping along. The killer's this great limp in this film. He comes limping along, and the woman wants to go home at first. And no, please stay with me, please. Of course, he attacks, kills her, and then the guy is hysterical crying. I don't understand. I mean, he's very over the top with how his acting is and trying to act in sorrow. And there's a great, the police captain's like, Sergeant, get this man to the local hospital. I was like, Sergeant, you got to get that guy to acting school is what you need to do. But I mean, it is neither here nor there. Of course, there's a woman who's taking a bath and she gets her leg chopped off. You get all of these kind of over-the-top, gory, insane kills that had never been seen before. And I think that's a big reason why this movie drew. And because Herschel Gordon Lewis realized that the nude skin flicks he was making before this were not drawing as much anymore. So he said, hey, let me try something different. Let me try something that no one's ever done. Make a gore film. Sell films exactly on gore. And that's what Blood Feast is. He sold it on gore. And in an era that we live in now, where all of these Marvel movies and DC movies and all of these movies, they have such self-indulgent runtimes. I liked the new Batman. Did it have to be 3 hours long? I didn't like Avengers Endgame. Did that have to be 3 hours long? You could go on forever with how self-indulgent a lot of these new school superhero films and definitely films are. Like, why was Midsommar over 2.5 hours? Why? You wonder why these films are so long. But you look at a movie like Blood Feast, 67 minutes long. 67 minutes. There's no padding in this film. There's no lack of pace. There's no boring, dull moment. This movie is a quick, easy experience. You could watch Blood Feast 3 fucking times before you could get through Avengers Endgame or the new Batman film. That's fucking crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but it's the truth. And I honestly think I respect Blood Feast a lot for that. You know, and this way, you think about it this way, you could show more showings at the whatever, the drive-in theater, the Grindhouse theater, whatever theater you want to show it. You can fit in more show times if the movie's shorter. How cool is that? We have an 8:00 showing. We also have a 9:15 showing or a 9:30 showing or whatever. It's so much more marketable that way. The shorter your film is, it's an hour. It's an hour and 7 minutes. I love that. I love that this film isn't self-indulgent and it has no padding in it. Granted, I will say that Herschel Gordon Lewis, when we get to this film, there is some padding problems. Not in all of his films, but this one in particular, we're going to talk about. This one has some padding problems. I won't lie. But I appreciate that this movie is just quick and to the point. It's Blood Feast. It's gore. It's exactly what it's saying it's going to be. It earns its video nasty reputation no matter how fake the Crayola bright color is. That's the thing with this movie too. I love the use of color. I love the gore. I think the gore is that classic melted crayon Crayola red. And that's why I wore this shirt, because what movie do I love the Crayola red gore in more than Dawn of the Dead? And of course, a red shirt. I mean, that is the primary color in almost every Herschel Gordon Lewis film, is that bright, vibrant red. And probably my favorite color is that blood red. It's just great to look at. And there are some great shots where, you know, this woman who gets her tongue out, she's walking up to a hotel room and the screen is almost all entirely blue. And there's a fun pool scene where it's just very good looking to look at. I mean, while he's a low budget filmmaker, he didn't make pictures that were particularly ugly. He made good looking films. And it's crazy how much work he did. He really didn't work much with a crew. Like David F. Friedman, the producer, also was the sound guy. Herschel Gordon Lewis also was the director of photography, also wrote the screenplay. Also in 2000 Maniacs, he sang the theme song of the film. And the producer would be an actor in the films. I mean, these two were really a two-man team. They didn't have a big crew. 24/500, you don't have a big crew. You don't have big nothing. You've got to use heart. You've got to use imagination. You've got to use will to make this film. And he did that. And I think that this film really does stand the test of time, no matter how cheesy or goofy or you know, frowned upon it may be now. This movie really does stand the test of time for me. 59 years later, it's still entertaining. It's still an easy watch. It still kind of earns its rep because you know how important this was at the time. Now, part of me wishes I could get in a time machine and travel back to 1963, the day this came out, and see this with an audience. I wonder what their reactions were, because my reaction now, I laugh at a lot of the stuff. I laugh at some of the goofy, cheesy, over-the-top acting. But part of me wonders, did people see this in 1963 and fucking shit their pants? You have to wonder that, because I'm sure there are some people that did, because they never fucking saw it before. You know, and like there are things that we take for granted, you know, my generation, like having, you know, quick internet and stuff like that. I bet you when the internet first came out, people were like, holy shit, I could search something. Holy shit. There, you know, this, that, or the other. It's really weird how things can mean so much more if you look at them in the era that they came out and that they were new in. You know, and like, I really don't think that can be understated here. I bet you the people in the drive-in theaters, some of them were horrified by this. Some of them were like, holy fucking shit, this is absolutely grisly. And you read, there are some reviews out there where you'll read where this is the most vile picture and it will never be topped. Fast forward all these years later, I mean, you know, we've seen these Martyrs and French Extremity and Dead Alive and Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi and all of these people that love to use gore. You know, I believe that they came from a small branch of the Herschel Gordon Lewis school and tree of learning to add gore and sell gore and use it to make your film that much more marketable. And, you know, I really do. I want to know what that time machine experience would be with Blood Feast, because part of me would love to see that. I mean, I bet you people would have other ideas. Oh, you know, with the time machine, I'd try to do something important and stuff. But I don't know. Part of me would like to go back and see Blood Feast at a drive-in with some popcorn and some soda. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Speaking of this Tingler, Gremlins 2, the scene where the Gremlins 2. Oh, I don't know. What are these sets going for now, Grande? So, Brother Steel, right now, Arrow is having a big sale. This son of a bitch goes for $50 now. If you want it, I think it's worth it. To me, it's 14 movies, $50. To me, you can't beat that. You get the movies all in high def. I think most of the transfers, I haven't watched all 14 yet. I've watched about 10. All the transfers so far did not disappoint me. These are older films, obviously, that were shot cheaply, but to make Blood Feast look as good as they did, I don't think anybody beats Arrow when it comes to transfers. To me, it's worth it. You can pick it up at Amazon. Your local Barnes & Noble, I know, has these for 50% off. Highly recommend. I think it's a pretty cool set, personally. Effects are only dated if the public or you as the person decide they're dated. Sometimes you just have to go with the movie. Exactly. Like, to us now, of course this looks dated. Of course the tongue cutout looks fake. But to people in 1963, did it? Probably not. They've never seen a tongue get cut out of somebody. They probably fucking freaked out. Sheetar, Ishtar, the snitch is undeniable. Exactly. Speaking of the Tingler, Gremlins 2, over the theater, the spoof of the famous theater scene. Yes, that's right. There's nothing wrong with a beautiful woman in a bikini. Swing, swing, of course. Movies can be almost 3 hours long, but you have to have a certain flow, and you have to be the right director to do it. A lot of directors now don't have that talent. They don't. They really don't. And Herschel Gordon Lewis, love him or hate him, I don't think hardly none of his movies feel boring. Granted, Color Me Blood Red, I will have a small complaint there when we get there, because that movie does feel slightly boring from time to time. Original Superman is 2.5 hours long. That's a good movie, though. And I love Superman 2. I'm not saying your film can't be good if it's long. I just think nowadays films are very self-indulgent. Very self-indulgent. Like, you look at most movies from the 40s and the 50s, most of them are an hour and a half. Like, they're very rarely you're going to get a really, really long, like Gone with the Wind running time. Very rare. It happens, but it's few and far between. Much more few and far between than it is now. I am the Ice Lords in the house. Hello, Grande. I have to imagine people were freaked when this first came out. Absolutely. And I wish I could have been there. Welcome to the show, my friend. In the last lesson 11, the song plays, sung by David Hess, who played the main villain Krug. Yeah. Low budget, so you have to adapt and use what you have at your disposal. Oh, we have David Hess. He wrote music for Elvis. Have him do the music for the film. Sure. He also gives a great performance. You make a lot out of nothing, essentially. And I think in a lot of ways that's a very smart thing, and it's very hard to do, but they did it a lot in this time period, 60s, 70s especially. Do you have to keep an audience engaged in a 3-hour movie, and intermissions were a thing for a reason? Sure. Intermission, maybe these Marvel movies or whatever that have these 3-hour plus running times would benefit on an intermission. I don't think people would go for it, because it's funny. Everybody's always in a rush to do nothing. That's a big thing I always say. Oh, I'm in a rush. Why? Well, I don't know. But exactly. I know that seems to be everybody. Ryan Snyder's in the house. What's up, brother? Just got done working out. Remember, you were live. Thank you for checking out the show tonight, man. We are talking about the gore splatter films of Herschel Gordon Lewis, and we're just getting into Blood Feast. We're pretty much wrapping up Blood Feast. I just wanted to wrap up the whole plot, because this is funny. This is not really a movie that we talk about much plot, because there's not much to it. I mean, this movie is just basically kill after kill. That's all it really is. It's 67 minutes of killing and gore and bad, cheesy, over-the-top acting in between. So it's kind of has that charm to it. Of course, Ramses, he creates this whole, Egyptian catering thing to resurrect the goddess, of Ishtar or Sheetar, whatever tar you want to say. He has Connie Mason lay on the table. He's going to sacrifice her. And of course, she realizes in time. He goes off on a run and, gets into this garbage truck to escape the authorities, and ends up getting crushed in the garbage truck. And all this gore kind of pours out. And I love how the police, well, you just did this town a big favor. Everybody kind of looks at each other and like, wow, like, you did this town a big favor, like, good shit. And then basically the film ends. It's simple. It's so simple, yet so effective. I also want to say the music of this movie, very fun, very memorable. It's very much like trying to be intimidating music. It's boom, 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 boom. That plays throughout almost the entire film. Boom, boom, leading up to a kill. Boom, boom. It's so funny. It's 2 notes, but it is synonymous with Blood Feast. To me, I can't think about Blood Feast without thinking of that musical score, the 2 drop. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know why, but it has such a charm to it. To me, Blood Feast is a wonderful film, a film that more people, nowadays, I believe a lot of them, they look at it and it's so bad it's good. And it is so bad it's good. But I do think that there's no understating the importance that this movie had on horror as a whole for years to come. Is this movie as good as a Blood and Black Lace? No way. Is this movie as good as an Evil Dead? No way. But it paved the way for those movies to shine. And it paved the road for those filmmakers and writers and actors alike that became famous, whether it be your Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi's, Peter Jackson's. This is the movie that kind of paved the road for them to drive down in their fancy cars. I really believe that. And people will laugh when I say that, but I do believe Blood Feast is an all-time classic horror movie. Now, if I'm judging this movie as a movie, it's hard to rate. It really is, because technically it is quite bad. But in an importance way, I'm going to have to come with an 8 out of 10. I really do believe this is one of the more important, influential horror movies of all time. It is quick, it is short, simple, and effective, and to me, was a big trendsetter for years to come. And the reason that we have the gore films that we would get in years and years and years to come. Blood Feast, an 8 out of 10 for me. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a drink. I love those old school, infomercial commercials or whatever with the popcorns and sodas and all that stuff. And they'd all have the faces. I love shit like that. I'm actually a very strong supporter and bring back overtures and intermissions. I would be all for that too. But again, we're old school, man. Like, I don't think the youth or the public, because they're in a rush. They're always in a rush. What they're in a rush for, I don't know. But I mean, it is what it is. But that was Blood Feast. Now, moving on to the next film of the evening here. This is my favorite of the Blood trilogy, and this is from the year 1964. This was the follow-up. This was Herschel Gordon Lewis's, second of the Blood trilogy. This is 2000 Maniacs. Oh, the South's gonna rise again. I love this movie, and easily my favorite of the Gore trilogy. Let's get a brief plot synopsis going. 6 people are lured into a small, deep South town for a centennial celebration, where the residents proceed to kill them one by one as revenge for the town's destruction during the Civil War. Yes, 2000 Maniacs. Now, something interesting happened. After Blood Feast came out, Herschel Gordon Lewis turned to David F. Freeman and said, holy shit, look at the millions of dollars we just made on a movie that we made in 5 days, on a movie that we made on a shoestring budget of $24,500. Imagine if we could double the budget and double our shooting time and actually set out to make a great horror film. Blood Feast is something he kind of just fell into. It's similar to Tobe Hooper and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He just fell into it. I don't think he was trying to make an influential horror movie, and that's usually how it's done. You want to move the genre along? Don't try to. And maybe, just maybe, you'll fall into it like a Herschel Gordon Lewis, like a Tobe Hooper. But this was the movie where he said, listen, let's fucking put some money behind this. Let's put some more effort behind this. Let's give it a little bit of time and see what we can get here. And the result is 2000 Maniacs, and in my opinion, is the best Herschel Gordon Lewis film. I love this movie. And he himself has called this his best movie. And I absolutely adore this movie. I think it is another one that is a big trendsetter upon horror. What do I mean by that? Like I was saying in the intro, Herschel Gordon Lewis, with this, he kind of creates the hillbilly exploitation horror movie with this, because this is a Southern, the antagonists are Southern. You look into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a movie that really, defines hillbilly exploitation horror. There's a ton of exploitation hillbilly horror movies out there, but this, dare I say, was probably the first, and I love it for that. This is just a great sense of humor and great creative, gory, over-the-top kills. I just love this movie. So basically, these people from the north, they're traveling through Georgia, and they get stopped in this town called Pleasant Valley. And the entire town is just over-the-top nice. Welcome to our town. Please, you're our guest of honor. It's our centennial. We're celebrating 100 years. They don't tell you what right off the bat, but please, we'll let you stay in our hotels for free. You're our guests of honor. You will drink for free. You will eat for free. All of these things for free. You are our guests of honor. And at first, everyone's kind of confused. Like, this is kind of weird. Why us? Why would the people from the South want to treat the people from the North as guests of honor? I don't know, but we'll go with it. And one by one, they get picked off in the most fun fucking ways you could ever imagine. It starts off slow. It starts off as a retread of blood feast. And what do I mean by that? One of the women, she's cheating on her husband with one of these hillbillies, and they're making out in the forest. And he goes, "Hey, you want to see my knife?" He pops out his knife, and she goes, "Ooh, what are you gonna do with that?" And he says, "Here, feel how sharp it is." And she's feeling it, and he cuts her thumb off. And she fucking freaks out, screaming, blood squirting out of her thumb, where her thumb used to be, her thumb hole, screaming. He brings her to town hall. She's crying. The mayor is there. Everybody's looking around like, what the hell should we do? We got to stop the bleeding from the thumb immediately. I know what we'll do. They lay her out on a table, get an axe, and this hillbilly who's on the cover here, right here, this guy comes up with an axe and chops her whole arm off from her shoulder out. And she screams and just kind of turns and just passes out from the pain. And all the gore is shooting out of her arm. Holy shit. Holy shit. But part of me thinks without that scene, you wouldn't get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene of the taunting of Marilyn Burns and banging on the table and screaming, woo, woo. Without this movie, no way, man. Absolutely no way. You see a big influence there to me. I love it. I love that it starts like that. But the kills only get more creative. There's one guy who that was his wife. He's being seduced by this woman. And she gets him really, really drunk. And, hey, we're going to play this game. Okay, what game do you want to play? We're going to tie you up. So we tie him up, all limbs. And each limb is tied to a different horse. And they continue to whip the horses so they will charge in 4 different directions. And this guy gets all of his limbs pulled off. One by one, by all these horses. Fucking wild. Like, holy shit, the creativity behind that. To get a guy, all of his limbs ripped off. Just so much fun to see. There is my favorite kill in the movie, the barrel roll. And oh my God, the barrel roll is fucking classic. They basically have one guy, and they put him in this barrel, and they say, hey, we're going to roll you down the mountain. You're our guest of honor, blah, blah, blah. And they hold him, they're holding his arms and his legs, and the mayor starts hammering in nails to the barrel. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? He goes, well, the barrel roll can't be a success if there ain't no, excitement. And they're nailing down these fucking nails into the barrel. And this guy's looking up, and he's seeing what's going to happen. They're going to roll him down. He's going to get fucking impaled by all of these nails. And to me, it's a great point and motif of the build to a kill being just as important as the kill. It's the psychology there of, holy shit, I see what they're about to do to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just fucked at this point. And they push this guy down the barrel, and he gets fucking annihilated by these nails. And it smashes against the fucking barrier, and this guy's just laying dead, bleeding out like crazy. Holy shit. Like, that is just such an inspiring kill. And they play this great music, this creepy, like, bum, 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 fucking creepy ass music. Almost like sounds like it's coming from an organ or something. Just a very eerie sound. And then, of course, the rock kill where this woman is tied on a platform, and this giant fucking boulder is sitting in a chair above her, almost like a dunk tank. And there's a big target, and if you hit the target, it's going to teeter the rock over and crush the woman. And they have all the townfolk kind of throwing shit at the target to try to hit it and crush this woman alive while she's awake and screaming for help. Fucking crazy. Like, absolutely insane, the kills in this movie. They're so much fun. And they're completely why I like this movie. I just think the kills are just so creative. To me, it's, a very big pioneer to slasher movies and a very big pioneer to the backwoods hillbilly exploitation horror film. I really do believe that. Like, I think there's so many movies that take, credit from this, and they don't really, acknowledge it. And I don't know, I love 2000 Maniacs. I think this is a great film. It has a great sense of humor. All of the town folk, especially the mayor, and I want to get the mayor's name right here because he fucking cracks me up watching this. Jeffrey Allen as Mayor Buckman is fucking hilarious in this movie. He's coming back from the barrel roll of death, and they're ready to kill this woman with the stone. And one of the townfolk goes, hey, mayor, how was the barrel roll? And the mayor, without missing a beat, gives my favorite line of the movie. He goes, oh, the barrel roll was great. And they all start cheering. And this whole southern town that is being over the top nice they're getting off on killing these Northern Yankees just because, in all these fun, creative ways, and almost having a festival of it. I love that. To me, the antagonists in this are so much fucking fun, and it's such a tongue-in-cheek vibe. And after a lot of the kills, they'll sing songs and hold hands and party together. This movie is great because it's almost like a slasher film where the antagonists party after each kill. And you as the viewer are along for the ride. It's just such a wonderful, fun time to watch. It's easily my favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis film. I love it. There is an interesting psychology to this film. Now, there is, of course, Connie Mason and William Kerwin. They come back from Blood Feast. They were a couple in real life. They're like the two leads that figure out what's going on. They have to escape the town. They do. Now, there's an interesting sort of twist towards the end, though, with this one. And spoilers, obviously. I'm always in spoilers. But there's an interesting twist where they get away. They get out of the town, and they go to the police. And when I first watched this movie, I thought they were going with the generic, oh, the cops are in it on it too, or the cops are in it, or it's the cop's brother is the mayor or something. I thought that was how it was going to end. And I was like, oh, I remember the first time I saw this thinking like, oh, like, I hope they don't do that. They don't. They asked the cop, they're like, listen, there's a town called Pleasant Valley, and all of these people were just murdered. You have to help us. The cop goes, I'm going to ask you to take a breathalyzer. Breathalyzes them. They're both fine. What the hell? They drive there, and he's like, okay, point me out to where the town is. And they cannot find the town. There's a big twist at the end where the town isn't there. The town never was there. Every 100 years, the town reappears so they can sacrifice Yankees. And it's a supernatural antagonist that's doing all of this. It's not really a real town. I thought, what a great twist to have in a movie like this. And I didn't see it coming. I really did. I was like, wow, they're all ghosts. That's why, that's why they're not going to get caught. That's why the police aren't in on it. That's not why the police can go there and arrest the whole town, because they're not there. And you learn this very sad backstory where in 1865, all of these Yankees went into Pleasant Valley and murdered all of these Southerners, innocent or not. And it's sort of a moment where you go, oh my gosh, like now I understand why the villains were doing what they were doing. They were killed innocently, so they kill these innocent people from the North. And that's it. I mean, that's horror, it's nobody really did deserve to die, but everybody did. And it's kind of presented here. And I think it's a very, very strong kind of message at the end where you're like, damn, like, that's something here. I kind of like how it ended. I didn't quite see the ending coming when I first watched it, but it put a smile on my face. I was like, wow, like a supernatural twist towards the end. Very interesting. Didn't see that coming, but I thought it was quite well done. I really did. I thought, wow, like that's a cool little twist, in between all the laughs and the humor and the creative gore scenes and the over the top explicit gore. Here you had this very psychological, emotional, twist ending with a little bit of that supernatural element in there. To me, it's a very grand film. I love 2000 Maniacs. Highly recommend people watch this one. Let me get to comments, though. I see there's a ton. Let me go back. I think we were here. I think if you introduced it to people, yes, people will complain about it. No matter what you do, people will complain. That's true. In the 1930s, movie theaters used to show newsreels. Yeah, all that for like a quarter. They'd show a Mighty Mouse cartoon. 2000 Maniacs was. I've never seen this one. I have seen 2001 Maniacs. Yes, the spiritual sequel with Robert Englund and Lynn Shay. It's basically a remake of this, but the only drawback of 2001 Maniacs is it's a movie that's trying to be bad. It's trying to be like how Herschel Gordon Lewis movies just were. It's trying to be like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's really much trying to have that charm and endearment without just doing it, And I will say that movie did have some bad CG, but there is, I believe the horse kill is in there, which is it's ripped from this movie. And it does look good in the remake, I won't lie. There's also, I remember the worst kill in that movie was this guy's having sex, and she pushes the funnel down his throat, and like it's stomach acid and it's CGI acid, and it like, what the fuck? I remember that being such a letdown. But the movie itself was fun. I'm buying it right now if I can find it. Yeah, you should be able to find this. I know it's a part of this set. I have it in part of this set. 2000 Maniacs. And I think the set is worth the $50. It's 14 movies for $50. Lin Shaye is in 2001 Maniacs as well. Absolutely. Lin Shaye's brother has also appeared in some of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, played the teacher in part 4 and the Ticket Man in part 6. Interesting. Well, look at it this way. These movies paved the way for my favorite slasher, Jason. Sure, they did. Absolutely. You can't really look at it as you throw a rock and you can't hit a slasher movie that wasn't inspired by these Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. Oh, dude, the kills in this are so much fun. It's really well paced too. Like, I won't lie, there's 4 kills in the movie. It's a body count of 4. For a body count of 4, you're like, huh, like that doesn't sound like a lot. But when they're creative and when they're gory and when they're graphic and when in between you have very fun over the top villains and the country music and the banjos, which granted, I'm not into country music or banjos, but it almost works because it's like, oh, I don't want to hear that. Of course, they're antagonists. Of course you don't want to hear that, but it kind of works in the theme of this movie. Has a very nice tongue-in-cheek quality to it. Death Central's in the house. Hey, man, hope all's going well with you, man. I haven't seen you on here in a long time, man. Hope all is well, though. So 2001 Maniacs is a parody of that. It was basically a spiritual sequel. I think Kevin Sullivan, the director, he does a great job. I love him. And he actually is in an interview on here talking about how much this movie meant to him and how much making that sequel meant to him. I don't mind that sequel at all. I do think it's a very fun movie, and Robert Englund does a good job. I think they made another one too that nobody talks about. They did a follow-up to 2001 Maniacs that I haven't even seen. I don't know if it's good or bad or ugly. Lin Shaye is in the follow-up. Robert Englund did not do it. I don't know why. I don't know much, but I know the 2001 Maniacs is a decent enough movie. Just some CGI and a little bit of the tone bugged me, but again, it's definitely a fun, worthy spiritual sequel to this, in my opinion. 2000 Maniacs to me is a great movie, my favorite of the 3. If there's one of these you want to track down, to me, it's this one. You can watch it for free on YouTube if you want. I believe you can watch it on Tubi. I think you can watch all 3 of these movies on Tubi if you don't want to spend the money. And so no worries if you don't. These are very fairly accessible films, especially because they're older. But to me, when you look at all of those creative over the top kills, I look no further than this movie. I think this is a really good movie, and a movie that kind of, set a trend for all of the movies to come. Like UFC Breakdown Labyrinth says here, and welcome to the show, my friend. Texas Chainsaw, Wrong Turn, Eden Lake, The Hills Have Eyes, Wolf Creek, Friday the 13th, Cannibal Holocaust, etc. So many films could have taken an influence. Totally they could. But that's the thing though. Like, I appreciate that this is a pioneer. This is the second ever gore movie ever made. And look how many movies are inspired from it and took from it, and did it better. And I will say that a lot of, you mentioned some movies. I would say Texas Chainsaw is a better movie than this, but that's not to say that this movie doesn't deserve its credit, because without this, who knows if Texas Chainsaw would be the movie that it is. So I don't know. I like to look at it that way. 2000 Maniacs. I can't lie. I think this is a 10 out of 10 horror movie. I fucking love it. It's exactly my cup of tea, my humor, the dialogue, the characters, the fucking over the top kills, the story, the town, twist ending. A perfect little horror movie. I love this. 2000 Maniacs. Highly recommend you guys check that one out. I think it's awesome. Speaking of Robert Englund, one of these days you should review 976 Evil. Yeah, no, that's one I've never talked about on the show. I definitely could review that one down the road. That's the fun of doing this. There's still, even though I've done over 100 episodes of this, and I don't even think we're far away from 200. There's still so much more I can cover, and it's fun. Like, I could do more Herschel Gordon Lewis. I could do more exploitation. I could do more slasher, more paranormal, more French extremity, more commentaries, more whatever. I think that's the beauty of the horror genre. There's so much you could branch out to. And I try to shake it up every week. Zombies. I try to shake it up every week. I want it to never feel stale. That's at least my goal. If it does, that's my fault. But, it is what it is. Although we're about to wrap, though. We are about to finish the final film of the Blood Trilogy. This was from the year 1965. This is Color Me Blood Red. Yes, Color Me Blood Red from the year 1965. Now, right off the bat, this movie has the reputation of not being quite as good as Blood Feast or 2000 Maniacs. A lot of people look at this and say that is by far the weakest of the trilogy, and it's not worthy, whereas Blood Feast was a big trendsetter with the gore and selling film on gore, and 2000 Maniacs was the very first exploitation gore grindhouse horror film, the hillbilly horror film, if you will. This one doesn't have anything of that note to it, to me. I don't think this movie really influenced a lot. But dare I say, I think this one has the best story of all of them, and perhaps the best, psychology. But I do think this one is a little bit lacking in its potential. I do think this movie has a lot of potential that it did not fully capture. And we're going to get there. But I see Death Central says, my bad, my internet crashed as soon as you answered me. I'm sorry. I said, yes, that 2001 Maniacs is actually a spiritual sequel to 2000 Maniacs. I said, Kevin Sullivan, he did a really wonderful job. He loved the original 2000 Maniacs, and he really wanted to make that spiritual sequel. Robert Englund's very fun in it. And the movie does take a couple of the notes, it does the horse kill again, ripping the limbs off. And, it's a movie that definitely has its heart in the right place. I like some of the kills. I think the practical makeup effects are really good in it, but the CGI hurt it a little bit. I don't know. I definitely think the 2001 Maniacs is a worthy spiritual sequel. I have a fun time with it. I wouldn't say it's a parody as much as it's an homage or a spiritual sequel as a thank you to 2000 Maniacs, which I am all for that, to me, in my humble opinion. But Color Me Blood Red, let's get into the plot synopsis here. I have it up right here. A crackpot artist kills various people to use their blood as his new crimson red color for his paintings. Yes, Color Me Blood Red. I got to say, that's an awesome title, too. That is a very awesome title. I love that title. That is just, I want to watch that movie. I just love that title. Now, this is one of those movies to me that it starts off fucking great and really loses itself by the final act. And it's one of those where I'm never a guy to say, let's remake X, Y, or Z. But this movie, I think if you remade it, could be a fucking masterpiece. But at the same time, I would just leave it alone. I'm also in that same camp. Well, I do think a remake, you could make it better. At the same time, I do think you should leave well enough alone. Never remake. I just hate remaking movies because it could also end up worse, in my opinion. But that's not to say that I really don't enjoy this film too, and I do. Color Me Blood Red, it tells the story of this artist, and I want to get the actor's name right here because he's pretty much the best actor in the movie. There's not a lot of good acting in Herschel Gordon Lewis films, but this guy does a good job. Gordon Osheim as Adam Sorg, the lead. He is this, down on his luck down on his luck artist. And he goes to all these art shows. He cannot sell a painting to save his life. And one day he's sitting in his house and kind of looking on into space and just feeling horrible. And his fiance, she comes up to him and she says, hey, you can't beat yourself up about it. Like, we're going to get married one day. We're going to be happy one day. Don't worry about this. Like, I know this is your passion. You're going to catch on. You're going to sell paintings one day, and you're going to put bread on the table and a ring on my finger and all of these things. We're going to live happily ever after. And this guy is just in a deep depression. He doesn't know what to do. He makes this painting, and he has this critic come over to his house to look at it. And the critic comes over and he says, listen, I hate to tell you this, but your painting, it lacks color. It lacks vibrance. It lacks any kind of life that it could have. And I'll have to decline. I'm not buying this. I'm not putting this in a gallery. You're not colorful enough. This doesn't look right. And he leaves. And the artist has a terrible reaction. He's banging the paintings off his head. He's throwing things around. He's just making a pigsty out of his own house. And his wife calms him down. Hey, take it easy. And they go in, they have a little sex. She comes out and sees that his painting's on the floor. She goes to pick it up and accidentally stabs her thumb. And she starts bleeding terribly and bleeds on the canvas. And that gives the lead character the idea. What if they're saying my paintings aren't colorful enough, aren't vibrant enough, aren't lively enough? What's more lively than human blood? And he says, hey, let me see your finger. He takes her finger and starts painting a canvas with her blood. And she's like, you're a sick bastard. Like, what do you think this is going to prove? Who do you think this is going to impress? And he says, just give me a chance. I mean, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. He uses her finger. Then she stops, says, you can't use my finger anymore. He uses his own finger and starts to paint this canvas and use his own blood to try to liven it up and make it more vibrant. He does this. He brings it to an art show, and people are all of a sudden offering him thousands of dollars for it. I'll give you $15,000 for that painting. And he doesn't know what to do. He's in shock. He's gone from one extreme to the other. No one wants my paintings. Now everyone wants my paintings for top dollar, for 5 figures or more. Holy shit. 15 grand for a painting. And he says, no, I'm not selling you my painting. I can't part with it. And to me, Herschel Gordon Lewis does miss out on a great psychology effect and emotional message of the horrors of being an artist in this film. I do think he could have fucking hit a home run here, but he doesn't. And what do I mean by that? This is just creative. I'm trying to be creative. I'm not trying to Monday Night Quarterback. This is what he had to do, and this movie sucks because he didn't do it. No. I don't look at it this way. I think in a lot of ways you could have touched upon the critics that were bashing Herschel Gordon Lewis. But so many critics have bashed Herschel Gordon Lewis. You never made a good movie. You made schlock. You made crap. You made sleaze. You made gore. That's all you were good for, Herschel. And a lot of critics look at him that way. I would have done a big fuck you movie to them and make this movie here. And a big fuck you movie to the critics that, you only care if I'm doing one thing. And you could go full circle with it and meta with it where, if you don't like my next movie, you'll dismiss me. You'll dismiss us. And, I want to change movies. That's what I want. And I think that would have been a really cool thing to tackle here. They don't go that route, though. They kind of go the route where he can't be separated from them. He won't sell them because he's become too attached to his own art. That's more the route they take. It's fine. It's fine that they go there. I just see, I watched it and through a critical eye, I went, oh, man, this would have been a great moment for Herschel Gordon Lewis to go, to all my critics here and to all my critics, bury me face down so you can kiss my ass when they fucking bury me. That's what I would have done if I was Herschel Gordon Lewis. He doesn't do that here, though. He does, the artist starts killing people in order to make his paintings and use their gore. Of course, he kills his girlfriend. She goes off on him one day. You're a fucking sick bastard. You can't be using gore to sell paintings. Are you fucking wild? Are you nuts? And now that they want to buy your paintings, you don't even want to do it. What the hell? Stabs her right in the throat and cuts down and uses her head as a paintbrush on the canvas to kind of make this painting. Very fucking unsettling scene there. Very unsettling to use your fiance's fucking corpse head as a paintbrush to make a painting that you're not going to sell. It's fucking wild. I love it. I think it's very, very fucking disturbing. And that whole, Herschel Gordon Lewis isms of this movie and of all his movies, the gore and the fucked upness, that's all there, and I appreciate that. I just think this movie could have been a little bit more. I think that's the one thing that I'm like, oh, if only they had gone that route, maybe more movies would have ripped this off. You never know. But I do think for a movie that's called Color Me Blood Red, it sorely lacks in the amount of the carnage. And what do I mean by that? Blood Feast has a ton of kills. It feels like every other few minutes there's a kill. While 2000 Maniacs cuts back down on the body count, it's creativity in kills. And it's the barrel roll. Oh, the barrel roll is great. And the fucking rock and the horse ripping off your limbs. There were a few kills, but they were so creative that it was like, oh my God, you were just thinking about what could they possibly do for the next one. There's such a little body count. It really needed more gore. It needed more killing. For a movie called Color Me Blood Red, it's the least gory of the gore trilogy. And that's kind of a shame to me because if you added more of a carnage count, I think this movie would be just as well liked and remembered as the two that I've talked about already. Or if you went the psychology route of this guy, I refuse to give in to my artists because of these things. I think that would have been an interesting way to take this. He kind of just played it safe here. And I know that David F. Friedman and Herschel Gordon Lewis had a big argument with this movie. Friedman wanted one picture. Herschel Gordon Lewis wanted another. They butted heads. And you get the movie that you get. Friedman walked out on Herschel Gordon Lewis after this movie. So I wonder, now I don't know what Friedman's plan was. Apparently he wanted to make it more Hollywood. By that, does that mean less body count? If that's the case, I blame him. Did Herschel Gordon Lewis want to not do psychology, not do the fuck you to the critics? Then I could blame him. I don't know who is to blame. I believe what happened was the two cooks that were in the kitchen and doing good things with 2000 Maniacs and Blood Feast, I think that they were not on the same page here in that kitchen. And I think that's why Color Me Blood Red gets the bad rep from fans that it does. And it's a shame that that is the case, but I don't think it's altogether a bad film. You do get some fun scenes where this couple, they're in the water doing kind of a paddle boat. And our lead artist, he comes out with like a spear and stabs this guy. That's a great makeup effect. The guy falls into the water and he kills the couple, uses them as paintbrushes, of course, to make his next, painting. You have scene where he ties this woman up towards the end and ties her up, and he's going to use her as this big masterpiece painting that we never get to see. I don't know. It's just, it's one of those movies where it's like, oh man, if only they had done X, Y, and Z. At least that's how I see it. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people who say this is flat out boring. And I will say of the three, this one has the biggest pacing issues. And that's because of the lack of kills. And it's because of the lack of using any kind of horror psychology that it could have used. That's just my opinion though. I see it that way. This one, it is a little bit tedious to get through. I believe it's, 79 minutes? It's about an hour and 18 minutes. It feels a little bit longer than an hour and 18 minutes. It does. Where 2000 Maniacs like an hour and a half, never feels boring. Blood Feast is 67 minutes, never feels boring. This movie, it does feel boring at parts, especially the last third of it. Just takes forever to get to a very weak climax to me. You have this woman tied up. He's going to axe her to death. Her boyfriend and all their friends kind of, come and they save her in time. They shoot him in the face and the movie kind of just ends. And it's like, eh. And a lot of the characters in this movie, they are Herschel Gordon Lewis actors. Like, they're not particularly good. They say all these weird dialogue lines. They don't have that endearment or that charm that the actors in Blood Feast did or the characters in 2000 Maniacs. They just don't have that charm to me. But I don't know, for what it's worth, Color Me Blood Red, it is a solid movie. I just don't see it as, what it could have been. It's a movie that I look at and I go, damn, like it's fine, it's passable, but that could have been just as good as 2000 Maniacs or Blood Feast. I really do think it could have been as good, if not better, if you had done some things differently. But, that happens. Sometimes, you're not on the same page and things can be messed up because of that. I mean, it happens. Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Color Me Blood Red. Who wants to donate some blood for my art? Dude, absolutely. I mean, I would do it. Why not? Driller Killer Abel Ferrara may have taken some inspiration from this. Absolutely. I know there was a movie in 2000. I want to say 2008 with David Hess, and it's called Smash Cut. And it's very much like a remake of this. It's very similar. Smash Cut is about David Hess is a horror filmmaker in the movie. And everybody always bashes his films because the makeup effects aren't good and they look fake. And then one day he's driving this actress home. They get into a horrible car accident and she dies and all of her limbs have been, detached. Like her fucking leg flew off, whatever. He uses the real leg as a prosthetic in his film, and basically his films start getting rave reviews. Now he's beloved because, wow, the makeup effects look so real, because they are. That's similar to this, but that even had more psychology of the whole bashing the critics thing. And David Hess, of course, is, no offense to this actor, David Hess was just fantastic actor. And he was able to make that movie work. That movie, Smash Cut, is a very big throwback to what Herschel Gordon Lewis did. And I quite liked it. Pretty creeped out to think the painting with your own blood. Dude, absolutely, man. Yeah, no, that would be some crazy shit. Like, I think it's a very sick, sadistic idea. To me, it's the story that really works in this one. I really like that whole setup of, I'm down on my luck. What am I going to do? Oh, right. I'll use real blood. I mean, that's just so sinister. The plot of Color Me Blood Red sounds similar to an episode of Tales from the Crypt that I've seen called Easel Kill Ya. That also involves discourages painter who kills in order to see. Okay. I actually have not seen that episode, but again, it's something that took a little bit of inspiration. So it's funny. We mentioned two things that I think of the three, this is the least influential. It looks like some people did take influence from it. So, I mean, it is what it is. Would love to see this redone. I actually agree. And I think me and you are on the same page where we are not remake people. But I think you could have done so much more. Not for the sake of regurgitating shit like most remakes, but there could be something more sinister to add a flavor with a remake of this film. I completely agree. I really do. Like, I think you could either give a big middle finger to critics. I think you could do a whole psychology of what it is to be an artist and the horrors of being an artist. of all of these people that are going to dismiss your work. And then only till you go to an extreme length and measure do you get the credit that you deserve. And you don't want to give them the fucking privilege to give you the credit you deserve, because you know all the sick sadistic shit you had to go through to sell it. That's what it is to be an art. It can be horrific at times. People sell out. You know, let's look at it in metal. Let's look at it in real life, right? Alex Aja, perfect example. He makes High Tension. I love High Tension. To me, it is one of my favorite horror movies of the last 20-something years. I love that movie from beginning to end. I know people hate the twist ending, whatever. He makes that movie. It is a smash hit. He comes to America. And I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. What is Alex Aja going to bring to the United States? What is he going to do? Hollywood remakes of old classic horror films. The Hills Have Eyes, Piranha, Mirrors. The guy pretty much became a remake horror film director. And not saying that he didn't make original stuff after too. He made Horns. He made Crawl, a fun killer crocodile or alligator film. I'm not saying that the guy hasn't made good movies. And I think a lot of those remakes that I just mentioned, Piranha 3D is fun. Hills Have Eyes remake is solid. And I'm not a remake guy, and I'll even tell you that. But as a fan, I would like to see him do more stuff that is original, gory, and crazy like High Tension. Because look at Wes Craven. What if Wes Craven had just been given remakes? Oh, you know, we're going to have you remake Dracula. Oh, you know what, next we're going to have you remake The Mummy. Oh, you know what, next we're going to have you remake Frankenstein. We wouldn't have got The Hills Have Eyes. We wouldn't have got A Nightmare on Elm Street. We wouldn't have got The People Under the Stairs, Shocker. We wouldn't have got these movies if you just gave these up-and-comers remakes. That's my issue with the whole fucking thing now. It's, oh, you know, who would you want to direct another Nightmare on Elm Street film? I don't want to see anybody direct another Nightmare on Elm Street film. I don't want to see Mike Flanagan do a Shining film. I want to see Mike Flanagan do whatever the fuck Mike Flanagan wants to do, because he is talented. But if you keep handing these people remakes after remakes after remakes, what are you doing to their art? You're just giving them a template and saying, fill in the blanks, color in the lines. Anybody could do that. You're crippling them from being artists. You are. And to me, there's quite a movie that could be told here with that mentality, with that template. That's just how I see it. This is a movie that plays it safe. Whereas Blood Feast and 2000 Maniacs go for it. That's, I think, the biggest draw back to Color Me Blood Red. Dude, I'm not even trolling. It happened again, but don't bother repeating. My provider is having trouble. Apparently, it could go away any second. Oh, I'm sorry. I do promise I answered the question both times. If you even want to rewind, I promise you I answered it both times. But no, I hope I don't jinx it. It's a spiritual sequel to 2000 Maniacs. It's a spiritual sequel. I won't go in depth because I don't want to like jinx it and crash your provider. See, I agree, man. I think High Tension was great. And I think Alex Aja, it makes me wonder, what could he have given us a Nightmare on Elm Street caliber film? Could he have given us, you know, that caliber of a movie if given the chance to make the original stuff that he did in France? I don't know. I wonder. It makes me wonder. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. There was a 50s movie called Bucket of Blood that also involves. That is a great movie. That's a Roger Corman movie. That's probably a much better version of this. Although that was 1959, I want to say. I believe you can double check. Fred knows the fucking facts. I believe it was 1959. It's a black and white Roger Corman film, and I remember really liking it. I saw it a long time ago. The only thing that is missing is the blood, is the buckets of blood. It's not gory like Color Me Blood Red. But granted, coming off of Blood Feast, coming off 2000 Maniacs, this movie does leave a lot to be desired for the gorehounds. Gorehounds are going to be disappointed. It's not a big body count. It's not overly gory. It's more of a story-driven film. And while you don't capitalize on the horrors of the, you know, artists or critics or whatever that you could have, it does drag. It does tend to drag. And that, to me, is a big drawback. But yeah, no, that is a good film. Bucket of Blood from Roger Corman is a damn good movie. I think it's actually better than this one right here, despite the gore and, of course, being in color and the Herschel Gordon Lewis isms and stuff. I mean, this does have all of that. You know, they find this woman's leg on the shore, and the fucking guy gets up and screams, "Holy bananas!" I swear to God, that happens in this movie. You know, you have some cheesy, you know, Herschel Gordon Lewis shit in here. Color Me Blood Red, though, it's going to run in and around like the average mark for me. I'm not diehard on it. I think you have a great idea and a great story here. And the first like half of it, I think, is amazing, but it really does lose its steam, especially towards like the last act. The last third of it really loses steam, becomes very drawn out, and I don't know, maybe a shorter runtime or more carnage or more horror psychology. There's a lot of things I think that could have been done to make this a classic, but unfortunately, none of those things were capitalized on. So it happens. But Color Me Blood Red, a very middle of the road movie for me. I'm going to come in with like a 5 out of 10. Average, but to me, and another important film in the filmography of Herschel Gordon Lewis. I kind of dig this one. Mateo is here. Ciao, Grande. What's up, buddy? An hour in, man. What's going on? We just actually did the entire Blood trilogy, my friend. We talked about Blood Feast, 2000 Maniacs, and of course, Color Me Blood Red, which is the last movie we just spoke about here. I guess I could show you too, because I know I don't know how big of a physical media collector you are, but this is from the Herschel Gordon Lewis Feast set, which features 14 films. Of course, we have 2000 Maniacs, Blood Feast, Color Me Blood Red. These are the movies that we covered tonight. Of course, you have The Wizard of Gore, which is right here. The Gore Girls, Moonshine Mountain. This Stuff Will Kill You. The Gruesome Twosome. A lot of fun movies on this set. And I actually am very happy I bought this set. Just add 14 movies to the collection. It was a lot of fun. And all the transfers so far of the 10 of the 14 I've watched look quite good. Bucket of Blood was 59 with Dick Mill. Okay, so I was right on point there. And I believe Corman was the director. And that's a damn good movie. That's one I don't know if there is a DVD or Blu-ray, but I should pick that up because it's another very good film. But yeah, no, rounding things out here, I just want to say that it's funny in a world now where we look on social media and we look on the internet and stuff. You look at like Lucio Fulci. And I just recently did a Lucio Fulci episode of the Italian Godfather of Gore. And then, of course, Herschel Gordon Lewis is the American Godfather of Gore. I definitely look at it and I see Fulci gets a lot more credit than Herschel Gordon Lewis. And let's be honest, Lucio Fulci is a fuck ton better filmmaker than Herschel Gordon Lewis. But that doesn't mean that I don't think Herschel Gordon Lewis's films have their place to me in pop culture, in horror, in when it comes to gore and splatter and exploitation and exploitation and all of these things. I really think these movies have their place. I think these movies really transcended the exploitation horror film era that was moving on into the 1970s, because the Gore Girls and Wizard of Gore to me are templates for what movies like Blood-Sucking Freaks would become, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and all of these movies that would follow and suit, Last House on the Left, and all these video nasties and stuff like that. I don't think you get any of them without Blood Feast or 2000 Maniacs. I think these movies really were influential, and they are fun to go back and watch. I think a lot of them have a nice sense of humor. They're mostly pretty short films. So, I mean, that's always a positive. I like watching a short, quick movie. I think it would be fun to do a double feature of Blood Feast, 2000 Maniacs. I think it'd be a very fun movie night. You'd only be there for 2 hours and like 15 minutes or something. Very quick. But I don't know. I enjoy these movies. To me, this was a very fun, little topic to discuss. I would be down to do more of these. Like I love The Gruesome Twosome, which is basically this mother and her like mentally handicapped son. And, they own this wig store, and basically her and the son, they start killing off all these women for their hair and stuff. The Gruesome Twosome is a lot of fun. Of course, the Wizard of Gore is this magician, and he is killing all of his lovely assistants or the people that volunteer from the audience. That's another one I really, really love. I think Herschel Gordon Lewis just made fun films that are not meant to be taken all that seriously, but at the same time, we're taken seriously enough to make better movies. I really do believe that, that's his legacy. His legacy is all of these people that kind of saw his films and then did something better with that concept and gore and all of these things. To me, his impact on horror history is quite important, and it cannot be understated. So that is Herschel Gordon Lewis, the Feast collection, and that was the Blood trilogy. Let's see, seems like a sweet box set. It is, man. 14 movies for $50. You can't beat it. You can get it if you're a physical media collector. Your local Barnes and Noble, you can get it. Amazon is doing 50% off. Their whole site, all Arrow stuff, is like going for 50% off now. And this is like a $50 box set for 14 movies. Like I said in the beginning, though, there is a cooler edition of this out where it's a cereal box of Herschel Gordon Lewis, and there's a coloring book, and they went all out with that. That's been out of print for years, though, and it goes for guap on fucking eBay. It goes for like $450 on eBay if you find it at all. So this is probably the best way to go. I mean, you're getting $400 cheaper and you're getting all the same movies. It's just not as crazy as a presentation, but I still think this is a very nice set. It has, of course, all the movies on the side here. I don't know. To me, you can't beat it. I really like this little set, and to me, it was well worth the $50 I paid for it. And this was a fun kind of show to show prep for. But never say never. We could always do Herschel Gordon Lewis movies down the road as well. I'd definitely be down to do that. But yeah, no. Unless anybody has anything else they want to discuss here tonight, we could wrap this. If you guys want to talk horror, no problem. We can. I could take a sip of my agua. I thought I had some agua. I think it's right here. Yeah. Got some agua. Stupid question. What is your favorite movie with the word blood in the title? Wow. Oh, now I'm all blurry. Look at this. I'm all blurry now. I don't know. Let's try to focus the camera here. We focus now? No. Okay. Well, I'm going to be out of focus for the rest of this. It's not going to go much longer. Stupid question. What? See, that's tough because it's funny. Of these three, my favorite was 2000 Maniacs, which is the only one without blood in the title. With Blood Feast, Color Me Blood Red. Favorite movie with blood in the title? That's a good question, man. I'm trying to think. I love Blood Diner. Blood Feast is fun. I love Blood Feast. I'm trying to think of movie. Like I don't want to. I feel like I'm going to miss one if I don't think hard enough. Blood Rage is a lot of fun. Fucking Thanksgiving evil twin killer movie. That's a fun movie. Blood Rage. Easy. I got it. Blood and Black Lace. Blood and Black Lace is the best movie with blood in the title. That is a fucking masterpiece giallo. That movie is Scream and Suspiria if they met before Scream or Suspiria came out and had a baby. I love Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace. It's a great film. Oh, I see you say Bay of Blood. So we both went Bava. So cheers to that, brother. Cheers to that. Fave Killer Clown. Well, I mean, most will say Pennywise. I mean, that's just the easy one. Tim Curry's Pennywise. You kind of have to lean towards that one. I mean, I enjoyed the Terrifier. I thought that was fun. There was a killer clown movie I didn't care for called Stitches, where it was like this fucking birthday party clown and the kids accidentally kill him and then he comes back from the grave. And I thought it was going to be like a great movie, and then it just really fucking went off the rails at the end. It just was so, I don't know. I didn't care for the humor, and the fucking kills in it were just lame. I just did not like Stitches. I have to be generic and say Pennywise. Tim Curry's Pennywise I'd go with. I will say underrated clown movie. Now, this is not necessarily horror as much as it is exploitation. There's a little movie called Vulgar from, I believe, the year 2000. Now, it's made by View Askew, who, of course, made Clerks and Mallrats and Kevin Smith and Dogma and stuff like that. It's directed by Kevin Smith's friend, and it basically tells the story of Brian O'Halloran, who's the lead of Clerks. Of course, I'm not supposed to be here today. He is this kind of party clown, and he goes, for kids' birthday parties and stuff. And one day he gets called in and basically gets fucking raped and molested by like 3 hillbillies. And then he decides to take the law into his own hands. He buys some guns and tries to become a vigilante, and it is a fucking crazy fucking movie. Like, I love Vulgar. That's one that I would love to cover on an exploitation explosion episode, because it's just such an interesting movie. And it's so interesting that View Askew and Kevin Smith and all of these people were behind it. Jason Mewes is in it. Like, it has all of the people in those movies. So it's very interesting flick. Yo, Grande, love you, bro. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it, man. Nice thumbnail. We gotta love Keith Hernandez, right? There are so many killer clown movies, Death Central, like the original It. Oh, sure, ton of them. LMAO Stitches. Yeah, I didn't care for Stitches. Killer Clown from Outer Space are the OG. Oh, I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a great movie. Let's turn the fucking people into cotton candy. And Killer Clowns from Outer Space is an 80s staple. I always wish they let the Chiodo brothers do the sequel when they wanted to in the 90s, and they just never gave them the finance for it. So, and now that ship has sailed. But to me, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is one of the great, 80s horror movies of all time. It just has that time capsule feel. I love that movie. That's another one I've never talked about on the show. I like the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Oh, totally, man. Oh, man. See, that's from the director that made Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. And now that's another fucking gem of a movie. Of course, that one tells the story of David Lander, who may he rest in peace. He plays this clown in a carnival, like not a carnival, it's sort of like an amusement park called Funland. And one day the boss dies and he loses his job, and he becomes very sad and depressed about it, and he basically buys a fucking rifle. And man, Funland is an absolute fucking wild movie. It's really, it advertised itself as this fun, cheesy 80s movie, but it's not. It's quite deep when you think about it. Funland is a really good one, man. I think that's an underrated gem. And I love the director, Michael A. Simpson. He did, of course, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. That was the movie he did before those two. And while I can say I like Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 better, I think Funland was a movie that kind of paved the way for him to make Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 as good as they were. I like Funland a lot. Yeah, Art the Clown is amazing. I love Stitches. Yeah, no, a lot of people do. Second must be Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I would agree. I would say best Killer Clown movies would be the original It, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I really did enjoy Terrifier. I thought that was just crazy what they did with it. See, it's funny. Like we were talking about earlier, what Blood Feast did. And if people saw it in the 1960s, how much they must have freaked out by the special makeup effects that we laugh at and say, oh, it just looks cheesy or whatever nowadays. We saw Terrifier, and then when he saws that woman in half, how real did that look? Holy shit. I wonder if there are people 60 years from now that will go, oh man, you believe that fucking people, that how fake does that look? I wonder, it's probably going to happen, right? Because we are this era. We thought that shit looked crazy, but will our kids think it looks crazy? Will they? I don't know. I don't know. There's no real way to see until we get there. Can't wait for Terrifier 2. I know that's coming out fairly soon. I know the trailer is around. Captain Spaulding, of course. You see, funny. It's like when you say Killer Clown, I don't necessarily think of Sid Haig's Captain Spaulding, but of course, I mean, fuck you, fuck your mother, fuck your grandma, and most of all, fuck you. I love Captain Spaulding and the Tootin' fucking Fruity. Sid Haig does a great job. He's the best thing in any of those movies. I love him in House 1000 Corpses. I love that he's in Devil's Rejects more. I just loved Sid Haig as that part. I think he was great. And of course, Bill Moseley is Otis Driftwood, and Sherry Moon is Baby Firefly. Those movies are fantastic. I think Rob Zombie made some really good midnight exploitation horror movies in the early part of his career. Like House 1000 Corpses is a great midnight movie in the vein of a Pink Flamingos or a Rocky Horror Picture Show. It has that midnight movie feel. Night of the Living Dead. It just has that feel to it. I don't know how to explain it. The colors, just a vibrant, gorgeous film. I want the 4K of that whenever the fuck that comes out. Devil's Rejects is a great exploitation film, and then The Three from Hell, even though I know they got him in it for one scene, he was dying, he was on his deathbed, and unfortunately couldn't be in the movie the whole way. So it was really sad. That movie, I look at that movie more as like sad. Like it's sad that Sid Haig couldn't be in the whole thing. And, it's just a damn shame because he deserved it. He was a great, great actor. I love him in Spider Baby. I don't know if you've ever seen Spider Baby. That's a great film. It was directed by the same guy who did Coffee and a lot of blaxploitation films. It's Sid Haig and Jill Banner and fucking Lon Chaney. And they're like these kids, and he's taking care of them, and they're all like mentally deranged. They all have this like syndrome or something, and he's basically trying to keep the kids from killing people. It's a very fun movie. I like Spider Baby a lot. Do you prefer Critters or Ghoulies? Overall, wow, that's tough. Like Critters 1 is better than Ghoulies 1. But I would say Ghoulies 2 is the best movie of any of the two franchises. Ghoulies 2 is fucking great. And it's a movie that I would love to discuss sometime this summer. Like, that's a fucking perfect summer horror movie. Ghoulies fucking up people in a carnival. That awesome rock song, Scream Until You Like It, never gonna stop. Scream Until You Like It. Fucking great. I love Ghoulies 2. Ghoulies 2 is like my favorite of any of those movies. I guess you could say Critters overall is better because I don't like Ghoulies 1. I don't like Ghoulies 4. Ghoulies 3 is Ghoulies Go to College, which is funny. I mean, you have Matthew Lillard and John Carl Biegler directs. It's okay. Ghoulies 2 is the best. And then Critters, I like Critters 1 and 2 a lot. I think Mick Garris did the second one. Critters 3, everybody remembers from fucking Leonardo DiCaprio is in it. And then Critters 4 is in space, which I don't remember at all. And then they did the shitty Critters TV show on Shudder, which I fucking hated. I hated the Critters TV show. Hated it. That was a piece of shit. Yes, okay. Love Ghoulies 2 as well. You know, same here, man. I love that movie. But overall, Critters for me too. Yeah, I think Critters overall, like I would watch Critters 1 and 2 over Ghoulies 1, 3, 4, or whatever. I would, but Ghoulies 2 is the best of all those movies for me. So it's a tough, that's like almost like a trick question. Like if I had to pick one of those movies of all of the franchise, like I would pick that one. But like it's similar to Alien and Predator. Like Alien 1 is like my favorite movie of either series, but it doesn't mean, but I also would say I like Predator more than Aliens. I definitely like Predator more. I think Predator is fucking great. Like I think both the originals can't be touched. Those are great original movies. But it is what it is. Yeah, if anybody has anything else to add, I'm gonna take one more sip of the agua. No problem if you don't. This was always a fun time. Oh man, I don't know why it's like my throat's a little dry down here, so it's kind of iffy. But again, everybody, I wanted to thank you all for stopping by. This was a very, very fun show, talking all things Herschel Gordon Lewis. If you have not checked out these movies, like I said, you can watch them on Tubi. You can watch them on YouTube for free. You can buy them in this set for 50 bones. I highly recommend if you're going to Barnes and Nobles, and you want to buy some horror Blu-rays or physical media, I think this would be a cool one to pick up. I think it was well worth it. 14 movies for $50. That's not bad. There was an Eli Roth movie called Clown. I saw it, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the guy who directed that? He went on to direct the new Spider-Man movies. I think it was the same guy. I don't remember it enough. I think it might have been one of those, I watched a half hour of it and then I had to go to work or something and I never ended. I think it's like one of those cases. So I can't really say good, bad, or ugly. I do know that the biggest thing to come out of that was the director making like No Way Home. So that's fucking pretty insane. Like he made a movie that grossed $1 billion. So, I mean, that's interesting. Granted, it's Spider-Man No Way Home and Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's really the reason that movie made the money it made, but still very cool compliment. Fuzzy Blu-ray slipcover on that one. Fuzzy Blu-ray slipcover. On which one? Oh, on Critters? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Good show, Brian. Thank you, Missy. I appreciate that. But everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back next week live in color as always. I want to say thank you again. Check these movies out if you haven't. And everybody have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend. We will catch you next time only on The Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. And we'll catch you all next time. Good night, everybody.